In this lecture, we will try to go through the student experience of attempting a quiz, and then we will follow it up with accessing the results of the quiz. So, we are going to have the student take the quiz that we created in the previous lecture. Okay. So, we will see how is it that the students will conduct, will attempt the quiz. So, we may want to remember the settings that we did. The important settings we did it is based on the assumption that it is for an examination, which means that we said there is only one attempt, and then we set a specific time window, and also we set the quiz duration. And if you recall, we added three questions to the quiz. And what else did we do, right? So, we also said that there should be one question that should be displayed at a time, and the quiz should move in a sequential manner so that they will not be able to go back and forth. Okay. So, let us switch to the student view of this particular quiz. Okay. So, this is the quiz that is there in the teacher view. So, I am going to switch to the student view. So, this is so we have logged in as a demo student. So, when we come down, so this particular the student is added to this particular quiz course already. So, let us click on the quiz 2. Okay. So, you will see that the instructions, whatever we saw, that is already there. So, the time limit is 1. So, I am going to click on attempt the quiz now. So, it will tell you that there is a timer. So, you will see that the quizzes, the questions are displayed here. It says time left is 59 minutes and 50 seconds. The first question is there, not answered yet, and it is out of 1 mark. And the first question, quiz, choose all capital cities of India from the given choices. If you recall, we added the quiz in a different order. We added the capital of India as the first question, but since we said shuffling is on, you can see that what we added as the third question there is showing up as the first question here. So, that is the effect of the shuffling that you will see. So, if I were to have another student sitting next to me and attempting for this quiz, then in all probability they will see a different question at the same time. That is the first thing to notice. You will also notice that only one question is being displayed on the screen, although we had 3 questions, and you will notice that the quiz navigation, it shows that we are in the first question. You will also recall that we had also set this access to be sequential. That is why it is not allowing me to go to the second or the third question directly. If we had set the navigation to free navigation, then students would have been able to go back and forth, right? As I said, if it is for a self-learning kind of a quiz, then you may not want to put any of these restrictions, but we are assuming that this is an examination setting wherein we are having these restrictions. So, I will put some answers here, and I will choose a couple of options, and then I will go to the next page. Okay. Now, this is showing the descriptive answer. You will also notice that there is no previous page option available here, because we said it is sequential in nature. Okay. So, I will just put some random answers here. So, I will say Mysore and Bangalore, and then I will move on to the next question, and you will notice that even here I cannot click the first question here to go back, right. So, this is why I was saying that students may panic if you do not inform them upfront. Okay. So, please inform them upfront and display the instructions in bold letters, and even announce it before the start of the quiz and so on. So, we will move on, we will complete it. I will put, I am blindly clicking on one of those answers. So, let us see how it goes, and then I am going to finish my attempt. So, it kind of gives me a confirmation that the answers have been saved. So, if I want, I can, if I can return to the attempt, then I will be left in the last answer. So, I will just go back and finish the attempt, and I will say submit all and finish. Okay, it is just asking for my confirmation one more time. So, it says since it is only one more attempt, so there is start open quiz will not appear again. If I had set the number of attempts to be more than 1, then I could have clicked on finish attempt and then we could have completed it. Okay. So, I will now go back, so I do not do anything here, my students work is over. So, I will go back to my teacher window, right. So, I have logged in as my teacher. So, if I go back to the course and I click on the quiz again, you will notice that there is been one attempt already made, okay, which is the attempt that we just took as a student. So, when I click on these attempts, so what did we do? We went back to the course. In the course, the quiz was there. You click on the quiz and the attempts will show up. So, let us click on the attempt here. Okay. So, you will notice that it will show one attempt, demo student 1, and it will say that, okay, I took the quiz for 3 minutes and 6 seconds and it is not graded yet. Okay. Why is it saying not graded yet? Because there was one auto grading question for 1 mark, out of which I got one portion of it. So, I got half a mark and another half a mark for the third question. You remember the second question was the descriptive question, so that requires grading. So, now as a teacher what I can do is I can review the attempt, and if I am happy with the automatic grading, I can leave it at that. So, it says no, please make sure you memorize it, giving that feedback, and this is what it is. I can just accept it, and when it comes to the second question, I can view it and I can make a comment and override the mark. So, this is where I can do the grading. I can make a comment and then I will say whether if I am happy with all of it, I can just put some comments here, no, everything is fine if I am okay with it, and then I can assign whatever marks that I want, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3, and then I can save it. Okay. So, that is it. So, this is saved, my review is over. So, I can simply say finish the review, and if I go back and see the attempt, you will see that now my second question is also graded. Okay. So, this is how you can review the questions and so on, and eventually if you want to download, so you can download the results to an Excel file, and all of this will come in Excel, and then you can work with it. Okay. But one other thing that I also want to cover as part of this is that we also ask the question, how do you publish the results? Okay. And we said that the options are to put it out in the notice board and so on, and I also said that the preferred method is to release the score in a personalized manner. Okay. So, what did I mean? So, now this particular quiz is conducted, although it is allowing me to download the quiz in Excel form. How do you publish it to the students? Obviously, no, emailing the Excel file is really not the way to do it, nor displaying the entire Excel file is the way to do it. So, let us now go back to the student view. Okay. So, now how does the student get to see what is the score in their quiz in a personalized manner, right? So, I will go back to the students quiz window. So, after the quiz is closed, right, because that is a setting that we would have done. So, after the quiz is closed, we can say that the student will click on it, and then it will automatically appear here saying that summary of your previous attempts of this particular quiz, quiz number 2, and this is when you took the quiz, no, the quiz was conducted, and you have a grade of 3 out of 5, right? And it also says your final grade for this quiz is 3 out of 5, no more attempts are allowed. If only we had set the number of attempts to more than 1, then additional attempts, reattempt links will come for as many times that you allow, and depending upon you set it as max, average, or whatever setting, that is the final grade that will appear here. Now that the quiz is completed, let us see how you can access the results and what is the information that you can look at in the result screen of the quiz. Okay, so this is a sample quiz, and we can see that the quiz had about 12 questions. As part of that, each question had 2 marks. These are all the instructions that were part of the question, and so you can see that it says there are 63 attempts. Okay. So you will also notice that there is a gearbox here which gives you a lot more options. Okay. I will come back to that. So firstly, what is it that you can see? When you click on the attempts, it is going to show you all the results. Okay. So for every student, what is the what is the response that they gave for each question, whether it is right or whether it is wrong, and so on. So this is at a glance, it will tell you what is the information that is available for each response. If you wish, you can also click on manually, you can review each individual's attempt. So you can click on the review attempts, and then it will show you what is the question and what is the response given by the student, and know how much time they took, and so on. Right. So this is what it is, and it will also give you, your answer is incorrect, and it will also display what is the correct response, and so on. So this is something that can be reviewed manually. Okay. So if I go back to the quiz itself, so I'll go back to the responses. So this is, and then if you keep coming to the bottom of that particular page, after all the responses, there are a few useful things that you can see here. You can see that for each question, it will show you what is the overall average marks. Right. So for the first question, the average marks is 1.62 out of 63 responses, 1.46, and so on. And then it also shows you what is the average marks for the overall quiz itself. And so this this information can allow you to judge on the overall performance of the students. Okay. So you can say, you can get a gut feel for the difficulty levels of the questions. So if the average mark is less than 1 for this particular question, so you can probably, if it's a 2-mark question, you can see how many people seem to have got it right, how many people seem to have got it wrong. Okay. So that is the first level of information that you can look at. One other tip that I want to give you is that this also is an indicator of the question, the correctness of your question itself. If it so happens that if there's an extreme thing, right? If somebody, if none of the students got it right, okay, which is very unlikely, either you have asked a question which is completely out of the syllabus, or there is some error, significant error in the question. For example, if it happens to be an MCQ question, by mistake, you forgot to include the right answer into the question. Either that mistake could have happened, or you could have marked an incorrect answer as the right answer. Okay, so these are all the indicators that you can look at it. If that is the case, you can always go back to the question, make that particular correction, and re-evaluate. But if it so happens that there is some drastic, you forgot to include the right option, then you have no choice but to give grace marks for that. So all these aspects have to be looked into whenever you are evaluating the results of a quiz. Okay, this also tells you the overall distribution, number of students. For example, in this particular quiz, the number of students who got between 6 to 8 is this many, right? So one of them, right? So it says number of participants in this, for example, right? So most of the students, about 16 of them, are right there. In fact, if you look at the overall distribution, I guess I like that, right? So this is some kind of a distribution wherein it follows some kind of a pattern, some kind of a curve, the distribution curve, so which is nice, right? I think you can be happy if this is the kind of distribution that you see. But then we don't have to be satisfied with this particular analysis in itself. So I'll go back to the quiz, and we will click on the action menu, And one specific, you can explore many other things that are there, but one specific thing that will be useful is the statistics. Okay, it displays so many useful statistics here. Okay, what is the average grade if you have allowed multiple attempts? For example, as part of a formative, it says what is the average grade for all attempts, what is the average grade for the first attempts, in how many cases did they have to retake the quiz, right? So all kind, median, standard deviation, score distribution, skew, no, enormous number of statistics as well. You can also see that many other additional statistics, many of which were covered in our previous lectures by overall how to create the assessments, how to evaluate the assessment. So those statistics are displayed here as well. Okay. Now you can also see that there are a few things that are flagged in peach color, and that must be possibly because of its inability to be discriminative. For example, if I talk about the discriminative index, so it's not very discriminative. It says that 5.95, which means that it is not good enough. Maybe it was a very easy question which will help me distinguish between students who have done well in the quiz versus students who have not done well in the quiz. So its discriminative ability seems to be relatively low. In fact, question number 10 is a bigger flag for me, right? So it says negative, which means that students who did well in the overall quiz seem to have got this question incorrectly, and students who didn't do well seem to have got the response to this question correctly. So we'll have to look into that. As an instructor, I will have to look into that particular question. Possibly there's an error in the response or something like that. I don't know, so which I will have to go into it. So these are all the flags that you can look at and make the necessary adjustments in your next assessments. Okay, so this is how you can complete the end-to-end an MCQ kind of an auto-evaluated assessments using Moodle quiz module. Okay, so just to summarize, firstly what we will do is we will create a question bank, and then we will go into the various settings of timing, grade, layout, and so on. And once you have done that, you conduct the quiz. Once you have conducted the quiz in a lab, for example, then you can click on this, you can come back to the quiz, this attempts will be there, you click on that to look at the overall responses, to the quality of the marks obtained and so on. And you can also look at explore the additional options that are available, especially on the statistics.